I'm John Miner. I'm a right-of-way agent inside TxDOT in our right-of-way division, and I work specifically with our high beautification program, and we regulate the billboards on the side of the road. We're dealing with almost entirely private property and private assets for the permitting and control of these signs. So for us, it's very important to know who owns the land and what those boundaries are, because we're going on someone else's property and we have to have permission. So we use this statewide parcel data in three major ways. First, when we're issuing the permits for these sign locations, one of the things we have to look at from the federal and state level is actual land use. And while it's not the only determinant, knowing the delineations of that property lets us kind of determine if the land is being used in a commercial or industrial way, or if it's being developed like that, which is something we have to look at before we can issue a permit, because those signs are supposed to be kind of constrained to those areas by law. The second way we use it is because all these signs are private property and they're located on private parcels, we have to make sure that we have actual access rights to the land. We rely on those sign companies to get us permission, and we need to make sure that who signs the paper is who actually owns the land, so we can get on there. We're not trespassing on someone else's property. The third way we use it is in illegal signs and getting rid of them. For the most part, when someone puts up an illegal sign, they don't write their name on the sign for us to find out who owns them. So we rely heavily on the ownership information that we currently get from the CAD to see who owns the land. That way we can contact the person who's maintaining these signs, presumably, and either have them remove them or get a permit if it's appropriate. Using the statewide land parcel data can save us a lot of time, because currently what we have to do is go to each individual CAD and we're asking them for information, and there's going to one CAD for every inspection for who owns what parcel. It takes a lot of time for our inspectors from what they could be doing in the field or processing more signs. We only have 60 days to turn around every inspection for a new sign, so they need all the time they can get to look through everything and make sure everything is airtight before they approve or deny an inspection.
My name is Michelle Culver. I'm a natural resource specialist with the Texas General Land Office's Beach Access and Dune Protection Program. We are a program within the Coastal Resources Division, and we are responsible for monitoring all activities that might impact critical dunes and all construction within 1,000 feet of mean high tide. There's a legal definition of construction, so that basically entails any kind of altering of the ground or any kind of building of any structure, placing impervious surfaces. So almost any activities that you want to do within 1,000 feet from mean high tide is something that requires a permit by a local government. So we rely on public input to identify non-compliance issues, but we also work heavily with local governments, and we conduct field inspections ourselves to ensure compliance with permit applications and to monitor all activities within that 1,000 foot from mean high tide region. We use the statewide address points and the statewide land parcels to locate the site of all proposed construction activities and to verify the distance from those sites to the line of vegetation and mean high tide, which in turn determines the extent of the regulations that are applicable to the proposed construction. We also use the statewide parcel data to verify the legal owner of the property and ensure that they consent to the construction. So we also use the statewide parcel data to identify the adjacent property owners for proposed construction activities, specifically whenever an applicant is proposing adverse impacts to dunes or dune vegetation and is mitigating for those impacts. Standardized and easily accessible data, like the statewide address points and statewide parcel data, increases the efficiency in which our program is able to review permit applications, ultimately shortening our review time. So this allows us to provide expedient support to local governments during their review process and to provide property owners with responses to their permit applications within a shorter time frame. Without this data, we would need to verify all of this information on each county's appraisal district record, which would increase time and effort considerably.
My name is Richard Gray, and I work for the Texas A&M Forest Service, and I'm our Chief Regional Fire Coordinator, so I work directly with all our emergency responders in the agency. So why our name is the Texas A&M Forest Service, we are a statewide agency, so we have a jurisdiction authority to abate the threats of wildland fire. As a matter of fact, we have drifted from the term forest fire to wildland fire because we see those fires in all types of ecosystems. That could be in our forests in East Texas, that could be up on the high plains outside of Amarillo, that can be in the brushlands of deep South Texas. So it truly is a wildland fire, not a forest fire. The other division within our agency is our Emergency Response Division or Forest Resource Protection Division, and that portion, and that's the program that I work in mostly, is geared towards outreach and helping our local responders and cooperating with our other state and federal responders. On the statewide address point data, we use that to locate very quickly homes across the landscape if we have a large wildland fire or other incident that's moving into a community or to scattered homes. That data being readily available helps us in planning the appropriate response to protect those homes. The address point data helps us quickly evaluate the threat from whatever the approaching event it is, whether it's a flood, whether it's a fire. And with that data, where we don't have to look for it, it's already loaded up into one of our programs, a collector program that we use. We can readily transmit that data to the responders, so it becomes a very efficient way to get the data and then get that data to the responders on the ground. Without that, the existing data and that rapid transmission, we would literally have to rely on driving roads, talking to people, and relying on that familiarity with the area as opposed to hardened data, the fact that this house is at this address point. Also, that point data gives us information on number of homes that are impacted, and that helps us get back to, if we make a fire management assistance grant application to FEMA, those funds then would also be able to come back to that local jurisdiction. So the better the data, the better the application, the more realistic the funding probability would be to the local jurisdiction.